The live is on, everybody. Hope everybody's had a great Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? Yes, it is Tuesday, August the 18th, 2020. We got the shades closed today, so I'll make sure that my phone don't overheat while we're doing this live. So as y'all come in, if you've been here before, you know the drill. Shout yourself out in the comments section. I will shout you out before we get started. I'm gonna give everybody like 45 seconds to come in, introduce themselves. We're not going to overheat today. You see, we got the shade closed. We got a little sliver of light coming in, but the sun is coming in hard right now. So we got to do what we got to do. Hope everybody's had a great Tuesday again. Hope everybody's having a great week so far, having a great month of August, staying focused now. That whatever you got going on due to the COVID, if you're about to start school, shout out to everybody starting school soon. So we about to talk about why victimhood sells. So I'm gonna introduce myself. We're gonna get right into it, and whoever come in late, they gotta come in late, and they catch what they catch. I'll put this up on my feed after. But my name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre all day. Former 9-year professional athlete, author of 27 books. I've done 4 TED Talks. I work as a product creator, master content creator, coach, consultant, speaker. I do a whole lot of things. I ain't gotta lay all that out. Y'all can find out about me at a different place, a different time, or you just hit me in the DM if you think I can help you with something. But I do all this stuff under the framework of this company that I own, this brand that I created that is called Work on Your Game. It's all about taking the mindset, tools necessary to succeed in sports, where only the top 1% even make it, and apply those same mental game tools to business and to your everyday life. And everything that I talk about, whether it's a post that I post on IG or Facebook, a video I put up on YouTube, or one of these lives right here, a book that I write, anything, is all from within the Work on Your Game framework. It's a lot of material within this framework. So every day I'm coming to y'all with new angles on this stuff, whether it be on these lives, whether it be on my daily masterclass that is also called Work on Your Game. You can find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the usual suspects. And you can find it in my books. So you can get it at workonmygame.com. These books I got in front of me. I'm gonna tell you how you can get either one of these books for free after I get through this material. And if anybody got a question, I do take questions live on the spot. I like taking questions live on the spot that are related to the topic that I'm talking about. So today's topic is, as you can see on Facebook, is right down below. If you're on Facebook, you can shout yourself out too. And on IG, y'all see it. I don't know if they put the title anywhere, but I put it in the pinned comment here. Why victimhood sells. Now this is something that I thought about because I was on Twitter today, and some guy, I had retweeted an article by someone they were saying something about, what was he talking about? He was talking about the NBA and having the BLM and all that stuff on the court and all these things in the NBA. And he didn't exactly agree with it, but he had a rational, reasonable argument for why he disagreed. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I retweeted the article. This was like 2 days ago. So somebody responded to that today, the fact that I had retweeted the article and said, well, I don't like that journalist because they're whack. And I said, well, why are they whack? I wanted to know what this person thought. Why were they having this comment? They said, well, this person is always criticizing LeBron James. And I said, all right, well, what did they say? Tell me what he said about LeBron James that was wrong as far as the criticism goes. I really wanted to get to the point of what this person was saying, because I find on social media, people will make random comments, and then when you actually challenge their comment and say, all right, give me some context as to why you're saying what you're saying, often they don't have anything behind their comment. So I asked him why, and he said, well, when LeBron got his house vandalized and the guy came out and said, well, LeBron's playing the victim card and this and that. And I said, well, he wasn't the only person who criticized LeBron for what he said, because what he said was kind of ridiculous. If those of you who don't remember, there was a couple years ago when LeBron got the N-word written on his house, allegedly. We never saw a picture or video of it, but let's assume he was telling the truth. And he came out at a press conference, this is right before the NBA Finals, and he mentioned the name Emmett Till. Now, Emmett Till was a person who was murdered years ago. This is before the civil rights movement. He was murdered because a white woman claimed that he had made an advance against her, and some white people came to where the young kid was staying. He was 14 years old, came, grabbed him, mutilated his body, tortured him, and then murdered him and threw his body in a lake. And they got away with it because back then, black people really didn't have civil rights. It was really like that back then at that time. It's not like that these days. But anyway, this kid got murdered off of that accusation. And LeBron, after he allegedly had the N-word written on his house, he came out and he actually mentioned that kid's name. He said, I feel like the mother of that kid, the fact that we got to put on display this terrible thing that happened to me. And I remember when I heard him say that, I said, that might have been the dumbest thing I've heard LeBron James say. And I think LeBron James is the best basketball player in the world until maybe if Giannis wins the title this year or Kawhi, then they would probably get it. But right now they haven't won it yet. I still think LeBron's the best player in the world. So I am not a LeBron critic. I'm not a LeBron hater, quote unquote. I think he's the best player. But I still also think at the same time that was maybe the dumbest thing I've ever heard him say, because you can't compare somebody saying something to you or writing something on your property with somebody losing their life. That's crazy. So anybody who criticized him for that, he deserved that criticism. And I doubt if anybody brought that up to him today, I hope he wouldn't have the gall to stand on that. But anyway, the whole point was he was painting himself as a victim, even though what the journalist was saying, this is something I said as well at that time, like as successful as he's become, why would he, and this is something that I think about when I hear somebody like him or any successful African-American person, or let's say black person. Because a lot of people say African-American. I ain't even been to Africa. So I'll say black American person. When they become successful, why do they continue to say things that allow their audience, the people who are influenced by them, to feel like they are victims when that person who's talking, the successful person, the famous person, or whoever, they could easily say, look, yes, there are some problems in America. There are some things that have gone wrong. There are some people who have been treated unfairly. But look, I became successful despite that. And I can tell y'all, here's a framework for how you could do the same thing. You might not be able to rap like me. You might not be able to play ball like me. Maybe you won't be a politician like me. Maybe you're not even as smart as me. Maybe you don't have two parents at home like me. But here are some things that you can do. Here's a framework for how you can become successful anyway, despite the fact that you think the cops might be racist, despite the fact that you don't like Donald Trump, despite the fact that you think some white people don't care about black people, despite all these things that you think are wrong in this world, here's a way you can become successful anyway. And one of the things that I have never been able to understand this, especially since I think from that time, I think for the last 4 years, we could start with when Trump won the election, because that's when this became a bigger thing, right? That's when everybody started talking about this more. We know Black Lives Matter started with Trayvon Martin, and he was murdered by a guy who was actually half Latin and half white, and the guy was not a cop. Then the Michael Brown thing in Ferguson, and Obama was president when that happened. So a lot of the things that people are saying don't really add up, but I understand. And I talked about this when I did the George Floyd episode back in May. But sometimes people are just emotional, so they come off the cuff saying things that don't logically make sense. But you got to give people space for that, because everybody gets emotional at certain times. But there's a certain point when you can't keep going off the emotion and going off the cuff, and you eventually got to start using some logical thought and make some logical arguments. Unfortunately, that was back in May, right? And we're here in August, and people still have not gotten to the logical side of things, which makes no sense to me. And so one thing, as I just mentioned, when it comes to people saying, well, we got to vote. I just listened to Michelle Obama's speech from the Democratic National Convention last night, and she's saying, we got to get rid of Donald Trump. And a lot of people black people that I've talked to personally off the internet are saying, well, we got to get rid of Trump because that's one of the biggest problems with change and race and social justice and all that. Well, let's remember that the Ferguson incident with Michael Brown, whatever way people want to interpret that, when the actual facts came out, it said he did not have his hands up. He did not get shot in the back. And this was an investigation done by a man named Eric Holder, who was actually black. And the president in charge of that person who did the investigation was a man named Barack Obama, who was also black. So if you're going to say, well, these bad things are happening to black people because of the president, well, that was happening when Obama was president. Trayvon Martin happened under Obama. So we're not going to blame Obama for those things. You can't blame Trump for these things that are going on right now. But again, let me be clear. What I just said is a logical, rational argument, but a lot of people are not in a logical, rational state. But what I try to do, again, I try to give people space to feel emotional because that's what human beings do. But at the same time, at some point, we got to turn that off and we got to face the actual truth of what's going on in front of us with some real conversation. So what we're going to talk about here today is I've been trying to figure out, as I said, why do people who are successful still preach to their audience that they should feel like victims when that person could not have become successful while being a victim? So I was trying to figure out, why does victimhood sell? Why do people preach victimhood and they keep doing it? And why do people keep sucking it up? That's the thing. It's not even, because I can sit here and say whatever I want. You don't have to listen to it. So why would somebody prominent and successful talks about being a victim, even though they're successful. It doesn't add up to me. Why do people still love to hear it anyway and want to hear more of it? I couldn't figure that out, but I have done some research through my own mind, and I'm going to tell you why that happens. Point number one, victimhood is passive, and you can stay where you are. Empowerment is active and requires work. This is the number one reason why people like to feel like victims. People like to feel like victims because when you are a victim of another person, of a place, of a thing, of a system, I think that's pretty much it. When you are a victim, you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is point out that this person, this system, this situation, this bad luck, this whatever has caused me to be in a bad space. That's what being a victim is, right? Something occurred or something exists that has put me into a bad space. And a victim is a person who points it out. They let you know that this is the thing that happened to me, or this is the thing that is happening to us. I have black friends who are like, I'm talking to them, they're like, yeah, man, they're killing us in the street. I'm like, yo, ain't nobody kill you. Nobody kill him, all of us sitting around. Nobody has killed one of us. Nobody's killed none of our families. Yes, I understand people have gotten killed, but everybody's not getting killed. And let's not exaggerate it and make this problem sound worse than it actually is. But people are saying these things, and I'm like, I wasn't able to understand it. But as I thought about it more, this is the first point that I came to. When a person is a victim, they can just sit back and just be a victim and just wait for something to change, or hope that something changes, or kneel about it and protest and hashtag about it. All of these are, as far as I see, these are passive ways of dealing with problems. A passive way of dealing with this problem is announcing it, acknowledging it, announcing it, making a bunch of noise about it, but not having an actual strategy or giving yourself any responsibilities to do anything about it, anything tangible about the issue. That's what victimhood is about. And it only becomes victimhood because people know about it. Now, if you're a victim and you don't say nothing, then you could just sit there and nobody knows about it. I'm talking about the public victimhood that people are, y'all watch the internet. Y'all got the internet right now, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Whereas on the other side of things, empowerment is active and it requires effort, it requires work, it requires energy. And the thing about empowerment is let me talk about victim. When you're a victim, you can point to the perpetrators, and they're the ones who have to change, right? So if I'm a victim of something that you did to me, you're the one who has to change. If I go tell everybody, look, this person did this thing to me, then everybody's gonna look at you and say, oh, you're wrong, you shouldn't have did that, you did something bad, you need to repent your sins, you need to pay that person the money that you owe, you need to go to jail, you need to be held accountable, you need to be attacked, you need to be canceled. When the person is a victim, the only person who has to do something is the person who is doing the victimizing. So it's a passive way of living life. And any of you who follows any of my material, you know that when I talk about work on your game, this whole philosophy, the fourth principle is personal initiative, which means going and making things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. So if you ever have a strategy of let me just sit and do nothing and hope that something changes in my favor, you know that I'm not about that. You are probably not about that. Even if you've been doing it, you probably don't want to be doing that. Maybe you just haven't moved yourself properly to action yet. I wrote a book that will help you with that. This one will help you. But anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit later. When you are empowered, on the other hand, you got to look in the mirror and you got to do something. And this is something that a lot of people don't want that responsibility on their hands, because now they actually got to take action. And when you start taking action, now you will be held accountable for your actions. And if your actions don't work, now you got to think and figure out, all right, why are these actions not working? What else can I do? What other options do I have? What other way can I handle and approach this situation? All of those become your responsibility when you are empowered and you decide you're going to move yourself to action. But when you're in a position of a victim, you don't have to do anything. You can just sit there and wait or hope that things change. And the problem with hoping is that hope is not a strategy and usually produces no results. Point number 2. The topic here is why victimhood sells. Most people would rather have an excuse for failure than a strategy for success. And this one is, I talk about it in, did I talk about it in Work on Your Game? In Work on Your Game, I had a section where I talked about being afraid of success. And this is one of the ways that people are afraid of success, is that they would rather have an excuse for failure, so that they have something that they can say and it lets them off the hook. When you have an excuse for failure, it lets you off the hook. Well, you know what? I want to make the basketball team, but I can't because the coach is hating on me. Or I can't because, I got an F in this class and the teacher was hating, so she won't give me a C, which would allow me to be eligible to play my sport. Or I want to, start my business, but I can't because, this is happening and that's happening. Or I want to be a successful person in America, but I can't because, I'm black and the cops and Donald Trump. See, when you give yourself an excuse, When you paint yourself as a victim, you give yourself an excuse for not achieving what you want to achieve. And the problem with that is the game never ends. The problem with being a victim is the game does not end. You could be a victim forever. Or victims just keep getting victimized. And it's not even that someone does something to you. It's just when you see yourself that way, everything that you see it through the lens of victimhood. They call this a paradigm. Any of you ever read Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People? He talked about paradigms. That's the first time I ever heard that word. And paradigms like a pair of glasses through which you see the world. So if you see yourself as a victim, it's like you got a pair of victim glasses. So everything you see victimhood in it. A white person looks at you funny, you're like, all right, they're racist. Or somebody doesn't. When I was in Vegas, I told this story on my IG. This white woman didn't get in the elevator with us, and my man was like, well, yeah, she was racist because she wouldn't get in the elevator with us because we was black. And I'm like, how the hell do you know? She didn't say nothing. Where are you getting that from? Because he has a paradigm of looking at everything through the lens of, well, white people are trying to do something to black people. I don't see the world that way, so I saw it completely differently, and I questioned him on it. He didn't really have nothing to say. But the whole point is this. When you're wearing the glasses of being a victim, everything becomes the world is against you. Now, everything is happening against you. When you have a different set of glasses on, however, the glasses of being empowered, of having a strategy and having a plan, now you're putting yourself in the position of, all right, what can I do with this situation? What can I do with that? How can I use this? How can I take this situation, which may not be ideal? Maybe the people are not helping me as much as they could. Maybe they're not doing the things that I want them to do, but how can I make this situation work in my favor? That is the mindset of empowerment. That's the paradigm of being empowered. Here's the challenge of being empowered. Now, I just sold you on the concept. Let me tell you the challenge with it, because I got to make sure I tell you everything. The challenge of being empowered is that you must come up with a strategy, you must come up with a plan, and then you must execute on it. And those are 3 things that a lot of people are not interested in doing. Now, while those of you who are listening to me right now, I'm probably not talking about you, but there's a whole lot of people out there who do not want to be told about strategies and plans and execution, because they all sound like one thing. There's a 4-letter word that starts with a W. It's called work. Most people do not want to work. People want to work as far as they're comfortable. People want to work as long as it's within their comfort zone, meaning within the range of what they're used to doing. But if you tell someone they got to do something that steps out of their comfort zone or pushes them past what they're comfortable with or what they're used to doing, that makes people uncomfortable. They don't want to do it. And for the most part, when people don't want to do things, you know what happens? They don't do them. Most of the time when people don't want to do things, they will find a way to not do them. I don't know if any of you know that. Maybe you have seen it for yourself in your life. Maybe you've seen it with other people who've been around you. But when you put a person in a position to empower themselves and they don't want to be empowered, they will find a way to not be empowered. They will find a way to not do anything. And work is work for a reason. There's a reason why it's called work, because it's not always easy. You don't always feel like doing it. It does not always work in your favor. Sometimes things will seem to be working against you. Sometimes you will work really hard and you're still not getting the results that you want, and you might feel stupid. You might feel like something's wrong with you. You might feel like something's wrong with your plan. You might think people are laughing at you, and you have all these mental demons that are working against you when you're putting work in. And this is the reason why so many people don't work or don't want to do any work, or they don't do any serious work, because they have all of these things in their own heads that are working against them, and they become their biggest enemy. But instead of saying that, now, most people will never admit what I just laid out for you. What I just laid out for you is 100% true. But most people will never lay that out, because if someone was to stand in front of a room and say, you know what, I could have been successful in life, but I didn't do the work because I didn't want to step out of my comfort zone, and I was a little bit lazy, and I thought things were working against me because they didn't work 2 times. And I told people that I tried everything, even though I was just trying the same 3 things over and over again. And I thought people were laughing at me, even though nobody was really laughing at me. And I just didn't want to move myself to action. And so that's why I never achieved any success in life. And that's why I'm up here on the stage telling y'all how I failed in life. Nobody's ever going to say that, because they would feel like an asshole, right? So people never say things like that. So here's what people say instead. They say, the coach was hating on me. The world is against me. This system is racist. These things are working against me. My mom won't help me out. This thing happened, that thing happened. They come up with all these reasons that the world has somehow, some way colluded against them that has caused them to fail. It had nothing to do with what they did, but it just caused them to fail because that sounds more acceptable socially. It's not because they actually, and I was going to say it's not because they believe it, but that's wrong. They do actually believe it, because as Napoleon Hill said in his books, The Law of Success, Think and Grow Rich, and in many of his lectures, which y'all can find online for free, he said, if you tell yourself anything often enough, you'll start to believe it, right? It doesn't even have to be true. You tell yourself anything often enough, you will believe it. It can be a lie. It could be a complete truth. It could be some bullshit that somebody else told you. As long as you keep saying it and you emotionally connect with it, you will believe it. People who become victims in life tell themselves so many times and in so many different ways that they're victims, and then it gets reinforced by a successful person. This is the crazy part. This is what I was talking about at the top. It gets reinforced by a person who is successful that they are a victim. Yeah, you're right to feel like a victim. And they're like, oh, well, you know what? I must be a victim. LeBron James said, I'm a victim. LeBron James, look how successful he is. If he's a victim, then what can I be? I ain't got as much talent as him. What can I be if he's a victim? That's the part that disappointed me most when I heard LeBron making an Emmett Till reference, because I'm like, as successful as he has become, despite the circumstances that he came from, he could have stood up there and gave an empowering message to the youth. And there's a lot of youth who listen to people like him. They're very impressionable. They might not have a father at home. They might not have a strong adult figure around them. So when they hear somebody like him talking, they're like, yo, this guy is successful. So let me hear what he has to say about it. All right, this thing happened. I need to know how to make sense of it. So this George Floyd happened. The Breonna Taylor happened. These BLM protests happened. All right, I need to make sense of this. There are young men and women in America who look up to these athletes and rappers, and they want to know what they got to say, because these are the people they listen to every day. Let me see what Rick Ross got to say. Let me see what T.I. is going to say. Let me see what LeBron's going to say, so I can make sense of this whole situation. And then they come out and say some victim shit. I'm like, that was a blown opportunity. And again, I'm not saying that they're wrong for saying what they said. They can say whatever the hell they want. They're grown men and women. They can feel however they want to feel. But I also feel it's a blown opportunity, because LeBron could say something like, when he got the N-word spray painted on his house, if that was me, here's what I would say. I would say, first of all, if I wake up in the morning and somebody has vandalized my property, I'm hoping and wishing it is on camera so I can find them and I'm gonna fuck them up. That's the first thing that I'm thinking. I'm going to jail for assault because I'm gonna hurt somebody if I find out who did it. That's the first thing. But if I can't find out who did it, then yes. Is this fucked up? Yes. Am I pissed off? Yes. Is this a bad thing that this person did? Yes. However, let's not blow this thing out of proportion. All right, I'm in the NBA. If I'm LeBron, I'm in the NBA. I'm the biggest thing in the sport. And I know there are a lot of young, impressionable people who are listening to me to see how I respond to this. So when something like that happens to them, they know how to respond to it. So I'm not going to make this a big deal. I'm going to say, look, I came from impoverished circumstances, teenage mom, no dad, never knew my father, in the hood, moving house to house. I'm not going to make myself look like a victim here because somebody says something to me. Look what I've achieved in my life. We got bigger fish to fry. I'm about to play in the NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors, because that's when this happened. Let's focus on the bigger picture. All right, there are a lot of things that we could focus on, a lot of things we could pay attention to here in the world. Let's pay attention to the fact that there's a way that somebody from my circumstances can make it. So if any of you kids or any of you media people want to talk to me about something, talk to them about how I'm showing people how they can get educated the way that I wasn't educated. Show them how I've been disciplined and put a strong team around me so I can be successful coming from high school to the NBA. Show them how I'm so disciplined and dedicated to my profession that I become one of the best players of all time. If we're going to talk about something, let's not talk about some idiot spraying a racial slur on my house, which we got rid of. It's gone. Nobody's hurt. Nobody dies over it. It's done. How about we focus on some positive, empowering things so that these kids know that even though you're black and even though people may not like you and even though there are racists around the world and there always will be, here's a way you can still be empowered and you can move forward in life. He could have said that. Now, I don't expect LeBron to be as articulate as I am. That's not a knock on LeBron. He is who he is. But he could have said something that sounded like that. He didn't do that. And I felt like that was a blown opportunity. So when people say, well, such and such journalist is hating on LeBron for criticizing the statement that he made. The statement that he made was ridiculous. I still think it's ridiculous to this day, as I said at the top of this. So anyway, that was point number 2. Let me move on to point number 3. And when I'm done with this, I will take questions. So anybody got a question, get it ready. I'll answer them after point number 3. The topic here today, for those who are coming in, why victimhood sells. Number 3, most people don't actually want power, believe it or not. I don't know if all of you knew that. Most people in life do not actually want power. There's a saying out there that says, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. Everybody's heard that before, right? Most people maybe talk about being empowered. They talk about wanting to have control and have say over their lives and be able to do the things they want to do. They don't actually want it. And let me tell you why. Because when you have power, when you are the master of your fate, you know what comes with power, ladies and gentlemen? There's one word, it starts with an R. It's called responsibility. When you have power, you're responsible for that power and you're responsible for making something happen with it. You know that you have it. The people around you know that you have it. And when you have power, with power comes in expectation. And this is, again, the thing that makes it so crazy with a guy like LeBron. He had the power of being as talented and as good as he was with ball. And there was an expectation. For those of y'all old enough, y'all remember when LeBron came into the league? He was the most hyped basketball player in the history of NBA rookies. No NBA player has ever come in the league with as much hype as him. And he lived up to it. He had the responsibility to live up to that hype. He lived up and exceeded the hype. So he understands exactly what I'm talking about right now. He completely understands it because he lived it. He did it. Most people don't want that kind of power and responsibility because they crumble under that expectation. The expectation that comes with that kind of power, that kind of responsibility, most people fall apart under that. That's how most people talk about power, but they don't actually want it. They just complain about the people who are in power. And this is what I didn't say this in so many words, but yesterday, I could have said this yesterday. When elections come around every 4 years, everybody gets all hyped, especially in the minority community, the black community. You get the athletes, the rappers, the entertainers, you get the former president. Now we got the Obamas coming out. They did this 4 years ago for Hillary, for those of you who don't remember. Same thing they're doing for Biden. They did it for Hillary 4 years ago. That Jay-Z is going to do a concert and Beyonce is going to sing and LeBron's going to post something. We seen this movie before. And again, I'm not saying that you're wrong for voting for whoever you want to vote for, or voting period, or not voting. You do what you want to do. You're an adult. You got your own rights. All right, people fought for that, right? So the thing is this. Most people would rather complain about those who have the power than actually become the person who's in power. Because the person who's in power has a responsibility of, now you got everybody looking at you. Whoever's in power and has a responsibility, if people know it, now they are looking at you and expecting you to do something. Most people don't want that responsibility, because when you have the responsibility and that much power, guaranteed somebody's going to be pissed off. Somebody's going to be disappointed. Somebody's going to feel like they got the short end of the stick. Somebody's going to feel like they're not getting enough. Somebody's going to feel like they're being oppressed or hated on or held back, or whatever other language people are using to say that they're just not getting a fair shake. When you have that much power, there will always be somebody mad at you. Most people do not want that responsibility. They would rather be one of the victims who can complain about the person in power. So when Bush was president, people complained about Bush. Then Bush won again, people complained about him more. Said, we got to get Bush out of here. All right, he was done. He had 2 terms. So we get Obama. We got Obama for 8 years. We had 8 years of Obama. People was kind of quieter about Obama. You can't complain, black president, right? Now he's gone. We get Trump. Now everybody's complaining about Trump. Now this year is Trump against Biden. So I guarantee you, let me tell you I'm predicting the future here. This time, 4 years from now, 2024, people are going to be complaining about whoever the president is. If it's still Trump, oh, forget it. If it's still Trump, people are going to be going crazy. If Biden beats Trump in November, 4 years from now, people are going to be complaining about Biden. I guarantee you. And it's going to be another election, and it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the same dog and pony show all over again. And again, this is not about politics. I'm just using politics as a canvas because everybody understands politics and everybody knows what's going on. I just talk about that because I know everybody knows what I'm talking about, as opposed to using some more references that everybody might not understand. So people, again, this is the point. Victims have no responsibility. Victims have no power. And a lot of people like being victims. Again, they don't like saying it, but they like it. I said this yesterday. I think I said it on my live. There's a whole bunch of people whose careers are based on bashing Trump. Their whole career. Like, they write articles about him. They got podcasts, YouTube video. All they do is bash Trump every day. Whatever he does or says, they come up with a way to bash it, and they make content out of it, and they get paid for it. This is real shit. There are people I follow online who do this. And I respect them. They're good people. I know what they're doing. They're playing the game. Everybody got to eat, right? Everybody got to pay their bills. That's what they do. They want Trump to win. They bash him every day, but they want him to win, because if he loses, they're not going to have a job. Like, they're not going to have a way to pay their bills because they ain't got nobody to bash anymore. But anyway, that's a different subject. We'll talk about that more when it gets closer to the election. I got some things to say on that. This is why everything that I'm saying here, victims give the power to the people, to whoever has victimized them. Thus, the onus is always on the person who's doing the victimization, or is blamed for doing the victimization. So right now in America, you got the NBA players who are, I don't know, they still kneeling before the games. I don't think they're even showing the anthem anymore. I don't know if they're doing it, but they're kneeling before the games, the BLM, Black Lives Matter on the court. And every game they're saying, well, we want this change and this movement and social justice, and these vague terms that don't actually mean anything. Listen, I can get behind something if I know what you're doing. I don't even understand exactly what they're trying to do, so I can't get behind it because I don't know where it's going. I don't think they know where it's going. But anyway, all of that being, you're giving the power to whoever's in charge. If people say, well, America is racist, well, America is not going to all just change in one day to help you personally. Anybody who's listening to this. If you think some things are not going your way right now, I believe you. You're probably right. There's some things not going my way right now. But if I just sit back and complain about them, nothing's going to change. I think logically we all understand this, but when you're being indoctrinated by people who are successful and famous and they have all these followers and all this attention and they're saying it, you're like, well, shit, maybe I'm right. Maybe I shouldn't do anything. Maybe I am a victim. Maybe because if the empowered person said, no, shut the fuck up, stop whining like a bitch, get up off the couch and go do something with yourself, you might change your mind. You might say, you know what, damn, LeBron James told me I need to stop bitching and go do something. You know, let me go do something. But if LeBron James says, well, you're a victim, no matter how successful you become, there's always going to be some terrible stuff going on, then you might be, oh, shit, what's the point? Why would I even try? That's the part that disappointed me the most about all of that. And this is why I think, this is one of my theories, this is one reason why I think many people who are well-known, notably famous, I won't even say successful because we have different definitions of what that means, but notably famous, they don't tell you how to do things, how to get better and get to their level as much as they rather preach victimization, because most people are lazy. Most people rather live life passively. If you preach to people about doing something for themselves, you'll have this many people listening. If you preach to people that somebody else is the reason why you can't do for self, you're going to have this many people listening. I told y'all, I don't know if any of you know who Sean King is. The guy, Sean King, I don't believe he's black. I think he has 2 white parents, but he poses as like this black empowerment guy. Like, y'all know who Sean King is. But anyway, I told people, if I wanted to have 1,000 times more followers than I got, I could just start talking like Sean King within a month. I'd be at a 100K blue check, all that on Twitter, Instagram, let's just say, if I wanted to do that, if I wanted to just preach the victimhood thing. And this has nothing to do with BLM or even Sean King himself personally. The whole point is, if I was to tell people that your problems are not because of you, they're because of this, and this, I have a whole lot more people listening to me, because most people would rather be told that than be told, work on your game. See, work on your game, just this phrase alone means you got to go do something. All right. Most people don't want to hear that shit. So this is why things are how they are. This is just basic human nature. It has nothing to do with black, white, Democrat, Republican, Trump, Biden, Obama, none of that shit. All that being said, I want to make sure we don't run out of time here. So I'm going to recap these points. I'm going to tell you how you can get either one of these 2 books right here for free. And I'll tell you how you can get this book as well. And I'm going to answer questions. So anybody got a question, go ahead and post it in the comment section. And I'm going to go through all the comments, and anybody who posted something, I'm going to shout you out and all that. So first, let me get this off. This right here is called The Mirror of Motivation, Self-Guide to Self-Discipline. This book is one of 4 books in what I call a bulletproof bundle. 4 books I put together on discipline, confidence, mental toughness, and personal initiative, the 4 pillars of the work on your game philosophy. I'm going to let you get this book for free if you go to mirrormotivation.com. The book is already paid for. All you do is cover the shipping. Again, that's mirrorofmotivation.com. Just the title of the book minus the word the. What this book is going to do for you is help you become the person who you need to be and decide who you're willing to be so you can do what you need to do to have the results that you want to have. Because this book is not a hype up book. This is not me getting you excited or inspired or none of that. That's why it's called The Mirror of Motivation. This is me giving you a framework so that you can look in the mirror and know what you need to do for yourself. Because that is more dependable than me hyping you up. Because I might not always be around to hype you up, but you will always be around to hype you up. So you can look in the mirror, mirrorofmotivation.com. That's where you can get this book. The book is already paid for. You just cover the shipping. If you want to play basketball overseas, go to balloverseas.com, the Overseas Basketball Blueprint, 237 pages. I came out of a D3 school where I walked on, had no connections, no agent, no game film, no nothing. Still made a 9-year career out of it. How did I do it? How can you do it? It's a more important question. Go to balloverseas.com. The book's paid for. You cover the shipping, balloverseas.com. So the topic here today is why victimhood sells. I'm going to recap these points real quick, then I'm going to answer every question in the comment section. Why does victimhood sell? Number 1, victimhood is passive and you can stay where you are, whereas empowerment is active and it requires work. When you're a victim, you can point to something. When you're empowered, you got to point to yourself. Number 2, most people rather have an excuse for failure than a strategy for success. Excuses are passive, strategy is active. This is why most people do not like strategy, because it requires work. Number 3, most people don't actually want power, even though everybody complains about not having it. When you have power, you are the master of your fate. With power comes responsibility. Victims give their power away. People who are empowered hold on to their power, but they have responsibility. Most people don't want responsibility. That's why most people are not successful. All that being said, let's take these questions. Mozart Gate, what's good? Mozart Gates. Donnell said, do I still play ball? Donnell, what rock you been hiding under, man? I stopped playing basketball 5 years ago. But I did write a book about it, so you can get this book, Donnell, since you asked that question. You get this at workonyourgamebook.com. Hardcover book, Donnell. We'll ship this to your doorstep, and we'll give you $1,400 in digital bonuses immediately upon placing your order. So you got something to hold you over while you wait for that book to come in the mail. But trust me, we got airplanes and envelopes and stamps and all that, so your book is going to come quick. Faye checking in from Cupertino. That's where Apple's at, right? I know when I get products from Apple, it says Cupertino. Shout out to Cupertino. I've been out to Silicon Valley. That is the cleanest area of America. I've never been to a place so damn clean. And the bike lanes were huge. I've never seen bike lanes that big. Michael Aaron, what's good? ABD33ZY said politics is poison. Well, politics is part of the life. You talking about government politics? Maybe you're right. But the other kind of politics, which means just doing things to help yourself, everybody does that. I think you're talking about government politics. So humans aren't naturally logical. That is true. No U.S. president was ever for black people. Yeah, some people have said that about Obama. AB says, Victimhood sells because it appeals to ego and emotions. That's correct. Brandon says, it's easier to not take accountability. This is 100% correct. As I said, you said that while I was talking. Darby Wynn, what's good? Tanika, what's going on? Tanika's going to be on the Overseas podcast next week, or maybe the week after that. Money May says, in relation to the theme of victimhood, were you ever in a position where you were hinged to the ill-minded, drifting thoughts, perspectives, and ideas of family members? I don't know about from family members, but if I ever catch myself drifting, then you gotta catch yourself. That's the whole point. It's not that nobody ever does it. Everybody wastes time. Every day, we all got our phones. We all get on our feeds and scroll and see what other people are doing and waste 5 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, maybe some of us, on stuff that ain't got nothing to do with what we're doing. But when you catch yourself, what do you do about it? Do you stay there or do you do something about it? That's the question. But I wouldn't say from family members. I could say, but any human being does that. ARB was good. Money May says, from your experience, were you able to convey and align your mentality for a bulletproof mindset if you're surrounded by parents who are victims, drifting, conforming? Well, first of all, I didn't develop bulletproof mindset till way after I wasn't even around my parents anymore. I developed bulletproof mindset around that's probably like 6 or 7 years ago. So I wasn't around my parents every day anymore at that point. But if I was in a situation of being a kid and bulletproof mindset existed, I would go get the course. Because nowadays we got the internet and you got people like myself and many others who put material out that can actually help you with your mentality. Whereas back in the day when the internet was not the internet, it existed, but it was nothing like this. You were limited to books, magazines, and TV. And if you couldn't find anything in those places, well, you was just shit out of luck. So for any of you nowadays who have that issue of being surrounded by people who may not have the right type of mindset, good thing for you is you can get on your phone and you can go anywhere in the world that you want just through this handheld device. Darby said, we propagate what we resonate. That is a fact. Law of association. Absolutely. Let's see what else. Hoop Loud says, Audi, was the work on your game, self-empowerment, something you had as a youngster? Would you attribute to taking on the mentality? Well, I didn't develop work on your game. I didn't start using that phrase until 2008. So by that point, at 2008, I'm 38 now. So in 2008, what does that make me? 26? Yeah, 26, if my math is correct. So I was not a kid at that time, but I had to develop those things, which I talk about in this book, Work on Your Game, which I think you might have. In this book, I talk about the mental toughness I had to develop along the way. So when I faced setbacks, I had to make a decision. Am I going to allow this to be the thing that keeps me down, or am I going to use the energy of the disappointment to push myself to move forward? And luckily, I made the latter choice multiple times, and then I created what is seen as by the general public, as success. So then they want to hear my story, so now I was able to write a book about it. That's the way that it works. So I didn't have the work on your game mentality because it didn't exist. I created it. But now, somebody who is a youngster, they could take it on because I created it. I made it available for them. But self-empowerment, I was always into that stuff, or what they call personal development. I was always into that even before I knew what it was called. So when I knew that it was a thing and it's an actual thing and people make stuff specifically about it, I said, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for. Brandon said, I worked with a manager at BK who quit because he couldn't deal with the fact that he couldn't get his second paycheck because they double paid us, but he spent the money. It wasn't our fault, but that's what happens when you're an employee. It was hilarious. So they paid him twice. So he got that right amount of money, but he just wasn't going to get paid at a certain time, so he was mad. That sounds like bad mathematics to me. Who says difference between obsessing over the scouting report as opposed to focusing on your offensive strategy? That's one way of looking at it. There's a little bit of nuance that can go in that, but I get your point. Play Off Perry says, been watching your videos for a while. I'm a senior in high school. Your videos have prepared me for that next step. Thanks. Well, you're welcome. Whatever your next step is, you should get that overseas basketball blueprint if you're trying to play overseas. That's what I would do. If I was you, that's what I would do. Blake Aroni says, been a follower since high school. Appreciate all the content. Hope more people can adopt these philosophies. I appreciate that, Blake. You said since high school. So how old are you now? So you can give me a timeline of how long you've been following. You said since high school. Well, I don't know where you at now. All right, so I'll take one or two more questions if there is one. And I'll tell everybody one more time while I wait to see if anybody got a question. Mirrorofmotivation.com. This book is already paid for. All you do is cover the shipping. Balloverseas.com. This book is already paid for. All you do is cover the shipping. I already told you what these books are for. This book right here is called Work on Your Game. I took my whole philosophy and condensed it down for the sake of the publisher's request to 250 pages. This book could have been 1,000, but it's 250 pages, so it's easy enough for you to read. You can get this at workonyourgamebook.com. It's a hardcover book. While you wait for this to ship, you're getting $1,400 in immediate digital bonuses on the spot today, directly to your phone. So while you wait for this to ship, it will not take long. You got the digital bonuses. Workonyourgamebook.com. That's the only place you get the bonuses. Yes, this book is available on other platforms, but you only get the deal where I just told you, workonyourgamebook.com. So if you don't trust us, you get it wherever you want, but you don't get the bonuses. You 24. All right, shout out to you, Blake. Money May says, you said that individuals need to stop being eluded by the redundant content on social media. I don't think I said that, but let's see the rest of your question. What are the incentives to propel you to abstain and refrain from social media feeds content? I don't abstain. I'm on social media right now. I'm reading the comment feed right now. I get material from looking at social media. I use social media as a source of material so I can produce. But I use social media as a producer more than a consumer. So if I'm consuming on social media, it's only because I'm looking for an angle. I'm looking for something that can help me produce more. So I'm not saying that, and the content on social media is not redundant. Shit is actually different stuff every single day. So you gotta make sure you're quoting me correctly here when you're saying that I've said something. You tend to exaggerate my points. It's not exactly what I said, but I just clarified it for you. So now you know. You've been following since you were 14, 15. That's what's up. Shout out to everybody who's been following me for 10 years plus. All right, so everybody, I think I've given you everything y'all need. I'm about to go on my evening walk. Hopefully no police bother me. I got my mask right here just in case I need it. So everybody, I do these lives every single day. I don't know what the topic's going to be from day to day. And if you like what you just heard today, understand something. Most of this is just off the top. I do a masterclass every single day that's called Work on Your Game. You can get a sample of it on every platform: Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, all those. At Work on Your Game University, I put this out every day. I've done over 1,600. Yes, that is not an exaggeration. 1,600 of these masterclasses every single day. You can get access to that by going to workonyourgameu.com, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Your first 2 weeks are on me, completely free. Your first 2 weeks. Keep it if you want. Don't keep it if you don't want to. That's Work on Your Game University. So if you like this, imagine what it's like when I actually prepare notes for it. That's what it is. Coach Paul Wall was good. I appreciate you. Everybody, have a great day. I'm doing this live again tomorrow. I will post this on my feed on IG. Work on Your Game. We out.